MyCPD merupakan sistem pengurusan latihan warga universiti yang antaranya memaparkan kalender latihan bulanan dan tahunan, permohonan kursus online, maklumat pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut jabatan, data pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut kompetensi dan rekod latihan staf. Tuan-puan boleh melayari www.campusonline.usm.my dan memilih ikon MyCPD pada paparan dashboard. Jom kita saksikan. Paparan dashboard MyCPD memaparkan penawaran latihan mengikut kompetensi TRAS, fungsi anda ICT pada setiap bulan boleh dilihat pada paparan berikut. Yang menariknya, paparan dashboard staff turut dipaparkan yang akan membantu tuan-puan menyemak mata CPD kumpulan minima, jumlah mata CPD mengikut kompetensi, TRAS, fungsi anda ICT dan kemajuan kehadiran khusus bagi latihan secara dalam talian dan bersemuka. Sukacita diingatkan, mulai tahun 2021, pihak universiti telah mengaktifkan semula pengumpulan mata CPD ICT kepada semua staf pentadbiran. Kegagalan tuan-puan mengikuti latihan ICT akan menjejaskan dapatan mata CPD keseluruhan. Di samping itu, tuan-puan yang mengikuti latihan di luar kampus turut berpeluang untuk mendapatkan mata CPD mengikut kelayakan dan syarat yang ditetapkan dan permohonan boleh dibuat terus melalui MyCPD di bahagian borang mata CPD individu. Bagi PTJ yang berhasrat untuk menganjurkan latihan, permohonan mata CPD boleh juga dipohon melalui MyCPD, mata CPD penganjur. Penggunaan kod QR melalui aplikasi pasport USM telah diperkenalkan bagi tujuan pendaftaran peserta bagi skala yang besar oleh penganjur. Ingin tahu lebih lanjut, tuan-puan boleh melayari www.campusonline.usm.my dan memilih ikon MyCPD.
USM S tu satu pulau bertutup.
Tak bohong.
Tak USM ni logo.
Ha?
Tak boleh tengok. Sebab dia antara jalan logo yang
Dia tak jalan. Yang bawah tu.
Bawah tu USM S.
Hello, I'm IDRIS JALA. As you know, I'm a USM alumni. My talk is really about how to transform organization to achieve big, fast results. In my first part of the talk, I will be talking about the 6 secrets of transformational leadership. Now, in that talk, I will be giving very clear, practical example of how I've applied the 6 secrets in operating companies in Shell. I spent 23 years of my time there, as well as my time at Malaysia Airlines and how to achieve big, fast results. And really what I'm really talking about is that what are the things that you need to do as a leader in your organization. Exercise transformational leadership. Very practical implementation of the 6 secrets. Thank you. In the part 2 of my talk, I will be then going into quite a fair bit of expose on the 8-step process so that the organization, people in the organization can follow in order to achieve big, fast results. In the part 1, as I mentioned earlier on, that was about leadership. In part 2 is about the people in the organization. So I will go step by step so that it becomes clear what people need to do right from the beginning to work with the leader to achieve big, fast results. And again, as I referred to, I will use a practical example in Shell as well as Malaysia Airlines to make this very real. And so that I believe that with the part 1 and part 2, and I call it the yin and the yang aspect of transformation, if you do come and attend my talk, it will become apparent to you that many of the principles and the processes that I described will be very practical to help you achieve big, fast results in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Boleh saya nak mohon tuan-tuan dan puan-puan kita penuhkan bahagian hadapan ni sikit sebab kita nak masuk live Facebook. Jadi boleh kita penuhkan bahagian hadapan ni dahulu. Boleh kita move untuk penuhkan sisi kanan dan kiri ni. Terima kasih.
MyCPD merujuk kepada singkatan dua perkataan dalam bahasa Inggeris iaitu My dan CPD. My merujuk kepada saya iaitu ditujukan kepada staf organisasi. Manakala CPD ialah Continuous Professional Development atau dalam bahasa Melayunya, pembangunan profesional berterusan iaitu proses pembelajaran sepanjang hayat untuk membangun dan meningkatkan kompetensi individu. MyCPD terbahagi kepada 5 elemen utama iaitu creativity, effectiveness, connectivity, relevant, dan significant. MyCPD merupakan sistem pengurusan latihan warga universiti yang antaranya memaparkan kalender latihan bulanan dan tahunan, permohonan kursus online, maklumat pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut jabatan, data pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut kompetensi dan rekod latihan staf. Tuan-puan boleh melayari www.campusonline.usm.my dan memilih ikon MyCPD pada paparan dashboard. Jom kita saksikan. Paparan dashboard MyCPD memaparkan penawaran latihan mengikut kompetensi TRAS, fungsi anda ICT pada setiap bulan boleh dilihat pada paparan berikut. Yang menariknya, paparan dashboard staff turut dipaparkan yang akan membantu tuan-puan menyemak mata CPD kumpulan minima, jumlah mata CPD mengikut kompetensi, teras, fungsi anda ICT dan kemajuan kehadiran khusus bagi latihan secara dalam talian dan bersemuka. Sukacita diingatkan, mulai tahun 2021, pihak universiti telah mengaktifkan semula pengumpulan mata CPD ICT kepada semua staf pentadbiran. Kegagalan tuan-puan mengikuti latihan ICT akan menjejaskan dapatan mata CPD keseluruhan. Di samping itu, tuan-puan yang mengikuti latihan di luar kampus turut berpeluang untuk mendapatkan mata CPD mengikut kelayakan dan syarat yang ditetapkan dan permohonan boleh dibuat terus melalui MyCPD di bahagian borang mata CPD individu. Bagi PTJ yang berhasrat untuk menganjurkan latihan, permohonan mata CPD boleh juga dipohon melalui MyCPD, mata CPD penganjur. Penggunaan kod QR melalui aplikasi pasport USM telah diperkenalkan bagi tujuan pendaftaran peserta bagi skala yang besar oleh penganjur. Ingin tahu lebih lanjut, tuan-puan boleh melayari www.campusonline.usm.my dan memilih ikon MyCPD.
USM, S tu pakai tulang begitu.
Kat bawah ha.
Tak, USM ni logo.
Ha?
Tadi tengok. Sebab dia antara dalam logo dia
Dia tak
warna.
jalan.
Yang bawah tu.
Ha, tu
Bawah dia.
USM tu S. Sepatutnya ada warna. Dia tak boleh ramai orang tak perasan.
Hello, I'm IDRIS JALA. As you know, I'm a USM alumni. My talk is really about how to transform organization to achieve big, fast results. In my first part of the talk, I will be talking about the 6 secrets of transformational leadership. Now, in that talk, I will be giving very clear, practical example of how I've applied the 6 secrets in operating companies in Shell. I spent 23 years of my time there, as well as my time at Malaysia Airlines and how to achieve big, fast results. And really what I'm really talking about is that what are the things that you need to do as a leader in your organization. Exercise transformational leadership, very practical implementation of the 6 secrets. Thank you. In the part 2 of my talk, I will be then going into quite a fair bit of expose on the 8-step process so that the organization, people in the organization can follow in order to achieve big, fast results. In the part 1, as I mentioned earlier on, that was about leadership. and part 2 is about the people in the organization. So I will go step by step so that it becomes clear what people need to do right from the beginning to work with the leader to achieve big, fast results. And again, as I referred to, I will use a practical example in Shell as well as Malaysia Airlines to make this very real. And so that I believe that with the part 1 and part 2, and I call it the yin and the yang aspect of transformation, if you do come and attend my talk, it will become apparent to you that many of the principles and the processes that I described will be very practical to help you achieve big, fast results in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
Alah lambat. Jauh dia ayak dah.
MyCPD merujuk kepada singkatan dua perkataan dalam bahasa Inggeris iaitu My dan CPD. My merujuk kepada saya iaitu ditujukan kepada staf organisasi. Manakala CPD ialah Continuous Professional Development atau dalam bahasa Melayunya pembangunan profesional berterusan iaitu proses pembelajaran sepanjang hayat untuk membangun dan meningkatkan kompetensi individu. MyCPD terbahagi kepada 5 elemen utama iaitu creativity, effectiveness, connectivity, relevant, dan significant. MyCPD merupakan sistem pengurusan latihan warga universiti yang antaranya memaparkan kalender latihan bulanan dan tahunan, permohonan kursus online, maklumat pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut jabatan, data pengumpulan mata CPD mengikut kompetensi dan rekod latihan staf. Tuan-puan boleh melayari www.campusonline.usm.my dan memilih ikon MyCPD pada paparan dashboard. Jom kita saksikan. Paparan dashboard MyCPD memaparkan penawaran latihan mengikut kompetensi TRAS, fungsi anda ICT pada setiap bulan boleh dilihat pada paparan berikut. Yang menariknya, paparan dashboard staff turut dipaparkan yang akan membantu tuan-puan menyemak mata CPD kumpulan minima, jumlah mata CPD mengikut kompetensi, teras, fungsi anda ICT dan kemajuan kehadiran khusus bagi latihan secara dalam talian dan bersemuka. Sukacita diingatkan mulai tahun 2021, pihak universiti telah mengaktifkan semula pengumpulan mata CPD ICT kepada semua staf pentadbiran. Kegagalan tuan-puan mengikuti latihan ICT akan menjejaskan dapatan mata CPD keseluruhan. Di samping itu, tuan-puan yang mengikuti latihan di luar kampus turut berpeluang untuk mendapatkan mata CPD mengikut kelayakan dan syarat yang ditetapkan dan permohonan boleh dibuat terus melalui MyCPD di bahagian borang mata CPD individu. Bagi PTJ yang berhasrat untuk menganjurkan latihan, permohonan mata CPD
Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Thank you for joining. Seperti biasa saya telah diarahkan untuk memohon tuan-tuan dan puan-puan untuk memenuhi tempat di hadapan. Okey, ini bukan Ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia DATO SRI IDRIS JALA, our distinguished speaker of the day, accompanied by our distinguished VVIP guests. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly stand for the USM national official song, Menara Ilmu. Thank you.
Universiti Sains Malaysia, menara ilmu tercinta, jadi tumpuan antara bangsa untuk segala cita-cita. Berinovasi, berteknologi, berwawasan, berkualiti. Biar usaha kami bersemi, hasratnya lah berseri. Universiti Sains Malaysia, menara ilmu tercinta, jadi tumpuan antara bangsa untuk segala cita-cita.
Kindly be seated. Thank you.
In the quest, the search for knowledge and insights, diving deep for ideas to gain prominence, be they the scientists, teachers, accountants, entrepreneurs, engineers, artists, managers, lifesavers, mothers and fathers. Let us be a trusted companion, your preferred high-flying institution, as we achieve excellence holistically. Because we believe in nurturing our future talents, we endure sowing the seeds for a sustainable tomorrow. We harness your capabilities. We take steps and stances to broaden our knowledge and experience. We want to be the champion to uphold mankind's universal values, to encourage a deeper understanding of sustainability. We dare to be different. We instill values. We cherish the diversity, where science and arts complement each other. We go boldly set the scene Steal the show. Think out of the box and set our sights. Walk far and wide. We dedicate ourselves to all our passion, to nurture the courage in all of us. We lead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA, Chairman and President of Pemandu Associates, and wife, the Honourable Datin Sri Pangan Yu. Yang berusaha Professor Dr. Habibah Abdul Wahab, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, Universiti Sains Malaysia. Members of the top management of the university, principal officers of USM, principal officers of Pemandu Associate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, salam sejahtera and a very good morning, and welcome to another Leadership Talk, series number 2, 2023, this time featuring one of our own, one of USM's more illustrious sons, Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA. Welcome home, sir. Thank you for being with us. A round of applause to Datuk Sri Datuk IDRIS JALA. The Leadership Talk series is established to allow people within USM to get to see, experience and hear the journey of others out there, leaders in their true right, showing us how things can be done better, how things can be improved, and to help us along within our journey of creating a better Malaysia. Well, today's talk is transformational leadership in higher education, which I think will be beneficial for all of us to get an outside perspective for a subject matter that is very close to our hearts. Now, I think Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA needs no introduction, but it would be remiss of me to not read out his formidable bio. And even though I'm not getting paid for doing this, hint, hint, right? It will be my honor to introduce Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA. Okay, let's see. All right. Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA holds a bachelor's degree in Development Studies and Management from Universiti Sains Malaysia, class of 1982, and a master's degree in Industrial Relations from Warwick University, class of 86. He has earned honorary awards from numerous Malaysian state governments and international organizations, including the First Order Medal by the Italian government, Tokoh Alumni USM back in 2008, as well as the Distinguished School of Management Alumni 2015. IDRIS JALA spent 23 years at Shell, rising up the ranks to hold senior positions, including Vice President, Shell Retail International, and Vice President, Business Development Consultancy, based in the UK. IDRIS JALA was also the CEO at Malaysia Airlines for 3 years, where he announced the airline business turnaround plan from a 9-month loss of 400 million USD in 2005 to achieving a record profit of 260 million USD in 2007. Datuk Sri IDRIS JALA is the chairman and president of Pemandu Associates. Now, I need to take a pause here before you all decide to write down your grasses about the Malaysian drivers and how bad they are on the roads. That is not that kind of Pemandu. Pemandu Associates is a private firm specializing in delivering transformation to its clients. He is a renowned transformation guru in turning around companies' performance through his big, fast results methodology and transformational strategies that are innovative, rigorous, and relevant to today's demands. He has continuously delivered sustainable socio-economic reforms, which in 2014 Bloomberg placed IDRIS JALA among the topmost 10 influential policymakers in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the pride of Kelabit, he is the pride of Sarawak, he is the pride of USM. But that aside, for you, all of you to really know the kind of man and person IDRIS JALA is, all you have to do is look up Malaysia's Got Blues on YouTube, right? Where his raw rendition, this is a classic Delta Mississippi blues rendition. This is a classic blues rendition. In his raw emotion, where he emotes and belts out, "Don't let nobody put your spirit down," a mantra for us all. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is a true honor and great pleasure to give the stage to DATO SRI IDRIS JALA. Sir, the stage and floor is yours. It's okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Is it on? I feel very young coming here. You know, it's just been graduated 1982. I have some slides that I want to present. How do I control you? Is it down? Okay, good. Arman did not introduce me where exactly I come from. This is the long house I was born and bred in when I was young. It looked like that. That was my dad. That's how he looked like. He was a school teacher. He taught me in the classroom, but he also taught me at home. It was very difficult. I couldn't escape the homework. You see the photograph on your right. If you look very closely, my great ancestors were headhunters. If you look at the photograph, you see some human skulls there. The hobbies of my great ancestors was to go to another village, chop the heads of somebody, bring the head, and put the skull as trophy. I'm okay, by the way. Don't worry about me. We're not going to do that here. What I want to talk about is not about headhunting, but really the subject of transformation and how it relates to education, higher education in particular. In my view, there are two very important ingredients if you want to transform an organization to achieve big, fast results. The first one is in leadership. You have to embrace a new leadership style called transformational leadership. Not the simple, not the ordinary way of leading an organization. It must be transformational. But if you just do that, it will not work, because you require your whole organization to embrace a new way of working. So the leadership must behave in a manner that's transformational, but the people in the organization must embrace a new way of working. The old way of working wouldn't work. So that is my view. That's the way how you can transform an organization, whether it's a company, whether it's a country, whether it's university. This is the way to do it in my view. So I'm going to talk about this in the context of higher education. But let me just nail down 6 attributes. I call them the secrets of transformational leadership. The first one is to pursue the game of impossible. And let me briefly describe what it means. People who are transformational in leadership, they will always raise the target, the goal, until it reaches a level where he or she and the whole organization say it cannot be achieved based on the current way of doing it. It's impossible to achieve based on the current way of doing it. So it forced them and the organization to transform. Do you get the idea? The current way of doing cannot achieve, it's impossible. So therefore you have no choice but to transform. So that's called the game of impossible. So if you, as a leader, keep on putting realistic target, you are going to consign yourself to walk through a path of mediocrity. In my view, 90% of human beings will die and get buried underground, not fulfilling their full potential because they never put impossible targets, and therefore they never need to transform. So if you are working in any organization, if your job is to sell, if you put a realistic target, that means next year I'm going to sell the product 5% increase in sales, that's a very realistic and normal target. You don't need to transform. Business as usual pun boleh juga. But if you put a 300% increase in sales, you know your normal way of doing it ain't going to work. You have to fundamentally find a different way how to do it. Many years ago, I invited Usain Bolt to come to Kuala Lumpur, you know, the 100 meters world champion of the world. We brought him to speak. And there was a question that was asked of him, Mr. Bolt, what's going on in your mind when you're the 100 meters at the starting block? You're right there. And his response was startling. He said, I am only thinking of what I'm going to eat tonight. Next question, why? Because prior to that race, 9 months prior to that race, I cannot just go and eat nasi lemak. He didn't say it like that lah. He can't go and eat KFC. His entire diet is regimented, control, new way of working, sacrifice. His entire exercise regime is control. Every night he must sleep before 9 p.m. Control. Only then, with all those things that you do, then only you can become champion. Because if you do business as usual, you're not going to get there. So that's an illustration of the game, the impossible. Second one is about anchoring on true north. Focus on what really, really matters. And everything that you do must really focus on what matters. When I was in Malaysia Airlines, we lost 1.2 billion ringgit in the year prior to that. So if you are leading a company that lose money, what is the most important thing you have to do? To make money, isn't it? That is the only thing. So not to change the quality of the nasi lemak in the plane, not to change the uniform, not to improve the culture. You focus on everything to make sure you turn around the company. So therefore, the term about true north is important. Most organizations have a problem because the leadership, they are confused about what is most important to them. And so it's important for you to be very clear about true north, because if you're not clear about true north, you cannot prioritize. In life, everything in life is about prioritization. What's important, what's not important. There is never enough money and resources to do everything under the sun unless you are clear about your true north. The third one is discipline of action. That means having now agreed this is what I need to do as a leader, you must get yourself and the organization to have discipline to act on it. And I'm not going to talk about 4, 5, and 6 for now. I want to talk 1, 2, and 3 because it's a lot more relevant to the work we're going to talk about with regards to higher education, which is what I'm going to do now. In my view, Malaysia's National Higher Education Blueprint is a beautiful plan. If you ask me to give it a score, I'll give it a 5-star score. Very good. As good as you can get. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of problems when it comes to implementation. I would say maybe 3-star. If I'm harsh, I would say 2-star. So that's the problem. Not about the blueprint. The problem with most governments and most institutions, they always think it's about coming with a new blueprint. That is not the problem. The problem is execution, implementation. On higher education, I believe there are 2 key problems. The reason why we have a problem in implementation. The first one is the quality of students that come here. If you talk to any VCs, they will say, yeah, our problem is the students that come to university already got problem lah. So we have a huge difficulty bringing the standard up. George Washington Carver once said, 99% of failures come from people who have an excuse of who have a habit of making excuses. So I want to talk about how to deal with this so that there's no excuse. And so this is the first problem. The second one is roadblocks to achieving the targets. Within the university and external to the university, there's a lot of problems. I will cover these 2 points one by one. How to make sure that as a country, how do we deal with the quality of the feedstock students that come into our university, so that when they come here, they do not already have problem, they don't have defects. They come here, they're ready to be taught, so that you don't have problem going, do repair work for their secondary school difficulties. Let me take the first part and then I move to the second part later. So how do we address the first problem, the quality of student? We need a new approach for driving education in Malaysia. When I was a minister, appointed minister in 2009, I remember distinctly a conversation I had with the Prime Minister, then DATO SRI Najib, who's in jail now. By the way, I want to put a little joke here. When I lectured twice at Harvard since 2014, in Harvard in April and also in September, twice a year. There was one person that mentioned to me, nowhere else do you find a situation like in Malaysia, where the prisoner is now the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister is now the prisoner. Only in Malaysia boleh lah. But anyway, this is the point that he put to me then. He said, Idris, if the top 1% schools in Malaysia, if the top 1% school in Malaysia are equivalent to the best in the world, how can we get all the other schools in Malaysia to be just as good? I want you to find a new way how to do this and come and tell me how we are going to do it next week. That was what he told me. I considered that a really impossible target. He gave me 1 week to think about how to do it and come and tell him how to do it. But the challenge is how to get all that 9,000 schools to follow the path of the 128 schools. We had 128 schools, the 1%. How to do that? So I went away and thought about it, and I came with this idea. The idea I said to him was to do this. We should rank all the 9,000 schools in Malaysia, because we have secondary and primary school altogether, rank them on the basis of all the public exam results over the last 10 years. Okay? After we do that, then we identify the top 1%, which he said, which are the top 1%, get the results over 10 years, take the top 10%, which is 128 of them, and publicly announce them and reward the teachers. Reward the principal, reward the school, and give them extra money because they are the best. Then we conduct labs. We bring the top, all the labs to then see what are the reasons why these schools are the best schools. Why are they very good? What are they doing that's different from everybody else that we can learn from? After we've done that, then we capture the learnings from these 128 schools and put them in a school improvement toolkit. Write down exactly how they do it so that it becomes handrail and guideline for all the other schools to emulate. Then we launch it so that every school in the country follow the school improvement toolkit. It was a document we prepared with exactly how to do based on those. At the end of every year, we then rank all the schools one more time. Who are the best schools based on the grades of the students, subject by subject, class by class. So you put them together. 80% of the ranking is based on the student exam results, maybe 20% on other activities, but the anchoring is on the student exam results. Then we publish it. If we publish the school, originally I thought it would be great if we publish the best school number 1, put it like the QS ranking, and the lowest ranked school as number 9,000, put it down. There was a tremendous resistance from the principals. If you are the principal of school number 9,000, it will become a ghost school. Then no parents will send the kids there. So they had a huge problem with this. The reason is because of that. So we then had a compromise. The compromise was we don't publish them by exact rank order, but we publish them in bands of 7. Band 1, band 2, band 3, all the way up to 7. That was okay. So we then did this. So we went to implement this. The Prime Minister said, okay, Idris, let's do it. So the following week, we started this. So remember, I went there in September. When we started in September 2009, we started running the labs already in October. In 6 weeks, we finished the labs. That's the speed at which I talk about. If you want to do it, you get on to do it. I give you a riddle. If 3 birds sit on a branch of a tree, 2 birds decide to fly, how many birds left on the tree? Ada? Very smart, that fellow. 3. Why it is 3? Because they only decide. They only decide, they didn't fly. 2 decide, but they didn't fly. That's the problem. Most of us decide, but we don't fly. That guy's very smart. Huh? Maybe he heard it before. So there's the key here. We get to go and do. So when we studied the 1% of the school, which is the 128 schools, this is what we found. There are 3 misconceptions. Everybody will tell you, oh, they are good because their facilities are better. Not true. The facilities are the same as the other schools. Sama juga. That's what we found. People say the curriculum is better. No, same curriculum. All the schools sama. Same books also. People say the salaries of teachers. No, same gaji. Everybody is the same. So what's the difference? When we studied a lot more what they were doing, this is what we found. First of all, with this. They were very clear that if you really want to revolutionize and make the school better, the center of everything you do must be the student, not anybody else. The student is the focus of the attention. And the results of the student, which is this one, the earlier chart. The best measure is the true north is the student exam results. Not perfect, but it's the best measure of true north. Not the cleanliness of the school, not the beautification of the school, no, it's not important, but the student outcome. So this is what we found in the top 128 schools. All the principals, all the teachers, and all the parents focus on the students. The center of the universe is the student. Everything centers around the student. Everybody else is considered a player to become supporting actors. The action is at the center, is the student. So the principal is focusing on the student. The teachers is focusing on the students. The parents focusing on the students. And when you look at some examples of the schools, this is what we found. The 4 critical success factors that we found: stellar leadership of the principals. The leadership plays a huge part in bringing the schools to be where they are. I went personally to look at the #1 school in the year, I think in the year 2012, because according to the PISA result, among 65 countries, Sri KDU at that year was one of the best schools in the world. So I went to see them. I met the principal. Her name was Datin Chan. I sat down in a room. You know what he said? Idris, whatever you do in the government, please don't ask the government to change the curriculum. Every time you people come with a new strategy, we will run around helter-skelter to cope with the new curriculum. That's bad. Our view in Sri KDU is that it's not about the curriculum, it's about pedagogy. Structured pedagogy, structured pedagogy, structured pedagogy. She nailed it. She said, come to me into the room there. We went into the room. It was a huge hall. And there's a huge long table there. Stacked on the table, from one end of the table to the other end of the table, are manuals on structured pedagogy, subject by subject, for geography, for history, for mathematics. How did we people do this? We find the best geography teacher in the classroom, the best teacher for maths, the best teacher for history, we got it codified and recorded. We knew exactly how they teach them. So the whole manual was drafted. Every school holiday, all the teachers turn up for 14 days during the school holiday to be taught by the best teacher in geography and history how to use that manual to prepare. 14 days full time. That's how they teach them. If you don't prepare, according to her, you are preparing to fail. So she was very clear. During the term, all the teachers has to follow the structured pedagogy. That is what they do. Every day there's check whether did you follow it or not. It is computerized. That is why the kids, they pay one fee, and they sit for the national exams. They also sit for the Cambridge O and A levels. The results are fantastic. Same gaji, yeah? Facilities are similar. Same books also. So the other school that I went to was a very interesting school, Sekolah Ulu Lubai. My wife actually went with me there. It's an Iban school. It's in the remote part of Sarawak. It's one of the best primary schools. The principal there is Cikgu Jaul. He's a very interesting man. He believed in discipline. Every kid turn up in the school at 6:45 in the morning. He teach them discipline. All of them must learn to brush teeth. He also, like Datin Chan, believe in structured pedagogy. So all the kids there, right up to primary 3, all can read and write. They win so many awards. The results, the exam results of the students there was fantastic. One of the best schools in the whole country. And these are very poor kids coming out from Iban kids, always flooded twice a year. And every evening, the parents are in the classroom together with the students doing homework. During the day, during lunch break, the parents cook meals for the kids. They're very, very good. In fact, the headmaster was invited to give a talk like this at the conference that involved all the teachers. There was one teacher, headmaster in Kelantan, who challenged him, Cikgu Jaul, you're lucky. The students are good. They can read and write because they happen to be good students. Why don't I send 20 of my students from Kelantan to your school so that you teach them to read and write? Challenge accepted. So the MOE spend money sending 20 of Kelantanese kids to stay in Sekolah Ulu Lubai. 3 months, all return to Kelantan, all can read and write. That is the point. The discipline that they put out there is superb. So the discipline of action is clear. The third aspect is parent involvement. The parents are completely robust in the way they do it. I visited a school in Sri Taman Mega in Petaling Jaya. This is one of the best 128 schools. And Mrs. Koo is the principal. They really get the Parent-Teachers Association to make sure that they get the kids to do their homework. I can tell you, if us parents make sure that our kids do our homework every night, it will be a radical improvement in outcomes. I was fortunate as a kid. My father was a teacher. He taught me in the classroom. When I get back home, I had no choice but to do my homework because he was looking. And so I do believe that what they were doing in Taman Mega, Sekolah Kebangsaan, they were doing exactly this. They get the parents involved, really, really monitoring all their results, etc. And finally, the most important one is the students' desire to learn, the center of the universe. You have to find a way how to get the parents, the teachers, and the principal to have a contagion effect on the students so that they have the desire to learn, to motivate them. Tremendous amount of effort must be put there to cause them to do this, to instill confidence as well as getting them to do non-academic work as well, to learn how to debate, how to do other things. So when they have the huge desire to learn, I was fortunate as a kid because when we stayed in Barrio when I was a little boy, we had the Indonesian confrontasi Indonesia, where the British soldiers that camped in my village. I remember very clearly they used to watch movies in the open field. There were some barbed wires there. And I remember clearly watching Elvis Presley movie because we couldn't see it from within the barbed wire. We used to see it from the other side. Many years ago, when I reached 15 years old, I saw the same movie of Elvis Presley. I thought he was left-handed because we were watching from the other side of the screen. The more important point about the story was this. They told us there is a world beyond the mountain. The world that you see in the movie is really there. The only passport to see the world is to pass the exams. So to me and my friends and my cohorts then was, failing the exam is like consigning yourself to death. You don't see that world. So the desire to learn and read books really was instilled in me at that time, because the first time I really came to town was I was 14 years old. And that was after we passed our Form 3 exams. It was so important to pass the exam. So instilling some form or other, the curiosity amongst the kids to learn is a very important aspect. That was the school in Sekolah Ululubai that we visited. It looked like that. So let me return to the outcome now. What happened after we did this activity here? You remember I told you we ranked the school from Band 1 to Band 7. Band 1 means the best performing school, and Band 7 is the worst performing school. The gray bars was the number of schools that was the top school in the second year in 2010. We did our work in 2009. In 2010, there was our baseline. There were 168 schools that were in Band 1. And the red bars was what happened in the year 2016, 6 years after we done this, because every year we were ranking them. So you will see an improvement, 105% improvement in Band 1 and Band 2. That means the schools in Band 3, 4, and 5, they all progress. Many of them progress upwards. So therefore, the decline, you can see the middle bands, Band 3 and 4, the gray bars less than the red bar, because many of them moved to Band 2 and Band 1. So there's 105% improvement in Band 1 and 2. Massive improvement that we saw there. In Band 6 and 7, many of them are in Sabah and Sarawak and some parts of Kelantan and Orang Asli schools. And many of them jump from into Band 5 as well. So you can see the increase in the number of schools in Band 5 because huge reduction in Band 6 and 7. So this was actually a very, very good, phenomenal thing. I can tell you there was a silent revolution taking place there. A lot of complaints were coming out from the teachers because you know what we did at that time? When one of the intervening period, we found out that many of the students were failing, their English was poor. So we then decided to get all the teachers who teach English to sit for the Cambridge placement test. They almost went on strike. But we told them, no, if the teachers are failing the test, how can the student pass the test? I can tell you this because it's public knowledge. Can you guess what percentage of the teachers who teach English fail the Cambridge placement test? Any guesses? 50%. Actually, 70%. 70% of the teachers who taught English in our school, they didn't even pass the test. That was the problem. And we knew them by name because we got them to sit for the test. And so we had to send them for remedial classes, organized with the British Council, and so evening classes. That was the key. Not everybody, the 30% who passed no need to sit for the test, but we knew exactly what it was. So there were very radical things that was happening in what was happening here. The rest of you don't know about this, but that was what was happening. It was a silent revolution. Unfortunately, when the government lost the election in 2018, the new government came in, they stopped it. So it is a pity, in my view, when you have new government, don't throw out everything that previous government do. What is good, keep. What is no good, throw out. But don't throw out everything. So this is a sad thing that we stop doing this. I move to the next one. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, how do we tackle this second problem? Very simple in my view. We need to go and find a new solution like that for higher education. So I was appointed as an expert panel for United Nations Commission chaired by Gordon Brown over the last few years. And I wanted us to, during that time, they proposed radical approaches. But you know, the rest of the world, they don't like radical approaches. They want simple things. So I sat on the panel for 3 years. We did absolutely nothing. And I'm very sad to say that I was a panel member and we didn't do much of it. All we did in 3 years to come with a white paper. After 3 years, I resigned. I don't want to be part of that because I never believe things will move by writing a white paper. We were only arguing about what the wording, what the words that we use in a white paper. In my mind, we should to do it. So when the current minister, DATO SRI Nordin Khalid, he called me, he said, Khalid Nordin, he said, Idris, I want to appoint you in April this year. He said, Idris, I want to appoint you to the chairman of the National Review Committee for Higher Education. He said, the answer is no lah. I don't want to do it if it takes a long time. Because I just came out from the United Nations Education Review Commission. 3 years, we did nothing. I don't want to do that. So after a long time we chatted, we finally agreed. I accepted that I will do it only for 3 months. If we don't do and make changes in 3 months, then we're never going to do it in 3 years. So we did that. We had a nine-person task force that we spent 3 months doing the review. The photo you see is the first meeting we had. So what's the true north? I said to the minister, in my view, there are 3 true north measures. The first is about quality. Second is profitability or financial sustainability of the university. The third one is about growth. Let me talk about what the measures are. On quality, it's about global ranking and student employability. If you are no good in ranking relative to the rest of the world, that means you're not so good. But of course, there's a lot of argument about the method of ranking. Just like football matches. You always complain about the referee. You always complain about VAR. But the goal is a goal. And so the other one is student employability. And then on growth, that means student enrollment. Let me take some numbers here. In Malaysia, the highest ranking university is Universiti Malaya. It's number 65 in the QS ranking in the world. USM stands 137. But the global one is that MIT is number 1. Oxford, I put here number 3, just for comparison. So we are way away from that. On student enrollment, in the year 2022, our student enrollment rate was 59.5%. The target is 70. Why 70? Because 10 years ago, it was 71. So that means our enrollment is really coming down. That means the number of eligible students that can possibly go to university, potential, only 59% of them go to university. The rest of them don't qualify. There's something fundamentally wrong with the enrollment. But the best in class is actually Greece, 150%. Turkey is 117%. Australia is 104. Why more than 100? Because a lot of people, when they finish the time, they miss the opportunity because they've grown older, they didn't go to university. They still come back and do their degree at 60 years old and 40 years old. That's why they're more than 150. That's how the gross enrollment rate is calculated. Student employment, there's a lot of 92% of the students, graduates are employable, but only the employment rate is only 73.5. There's a lot of students, graduates are unemployed in this country, so not good. More than 60% of the universities in this country lose money. I would say 64% of the private universities in Malaysia are in dire distress. That means they really can't even pay their debts. 55% are there in loss making. So we have a huge problem in our country with regards to universities. So we had a 4-day higher education. So I wrote to all the vice chancellors. So your vice chancellor received a letter from me. And all of them, I told them, can you fill this form? Tell us what are the issues that you face. How come we cannot implement the blueprint? So all the universities responded, including the TVET, and including we got all the returns from them. And in fact, there were 874 issues. No wonder we cannot implement. 874 issues that were there. We examined 45 policy documents and reviewed them. And then there were 134 institutions that responded to the survey that we put in great detail. We had 59 recommendations that we put out there. I'm not going to read them one by one because otherwise we're here all night. 29 of the recommendations were transformative. There's all the 29. 12 of them were quick wins, that if we do it now, we get some results relatively quickly. 18 of them were enablers. I'm not going to go through, but I will cover some of them. So let me cover some of them that I believe are worth talking here. The first problem was persistent unprofitability of the universities. How do you deal with this? Because 60% are unprofitable, declining enrollment rate of students, rising graduate unemployment, low global ranking. Not one Malaysian university has crossed the global top 50 bracket since independence. So we need to do that. Singapore has, China has. When we started before, they were not there, but they're there already. So quite a number of them are already there. But how come? What can we do? So on the first problem, persistent unprofitability. The first one, we recommended to the government, we need to liberalize school fees because the government control how much fees we can charge. The problem here was some of the courses, for example, doing a bachelor degree in pharmacy, based on the study that we put here, even if you have 100% student enrollment in the class, the university still lose money because the fees was pegged at a rate that was much lower than the cost to produce it, to deliver it. Nobody really did a proper thing in doing this. So they just took last year's fees and then escalated based on inflation. It was wrong from beginning. So we suggested that there should be full liberalization of the fees. So the second one was block funding for public universities. That means we look at how much does it cost for you to provide this kind of courses, and then we give it to you on the basis of the student intake, let you decide what to do with it. Don't tell you exactly how to do. Give you autonomy on how to spend it. Do it. That's how they do in Hong Kong. The other one is to abolish the 50% spend rule. If you want to set up an endowment fund in this country, the rule for endowment fund is if you collect, somebody send you money, the rule is 50% of the money that's donated to you must be spent in year one. Let's suppose company A want to donate 10 million ringgit to USM to hold a chair for, say, public health or social science, let's say social science, development studies, where I came from, 10 million. The rule says that 10 million cannot put it all in, cannot put them in investment. 5 million must be spent in the first year. So the 5 million is not enough to generate money to, in perpetuity to hold the chair. So that company A has to give 20 million because half must go. This is the problem. Only Malaysia has this rule, and no country in the world has this kind of rule. So we said, why do they do it? Because our rule on endowment is borrowed from what? From all social organizations, like World AIDS Organization, all these kinds of activities, not endowment. So we have to do this. And another one is relax immigration rules. The rules are so tight. There are so many rules that Home Ministry put so that we don't get enough foreign students coming in. There's a lot of these that we put. All the details are in the 59 recommendation, but I just put the main point here. And I can tell you, 2 weeks ago, the minister announced that they relaxed the rules. But it's very nice that they put it there, but I think they made a mistake in execution. We told them to relax the rules. There were no conditions associated with schools, with countries where they come from. They add another new rule there to say that only countries from developed countries will relax. But where are our most students coming from? Indonesia, India, Bangladesh. All of them is not on the list. So that whole thing that they put out there is totally irrelevant because the target market is the wrong market. That was not what we recommended. This is my point about execution. The policy was clear, the recommendation is clear, but implementation is something else. So I wrote to the minister, please, this is not what was agreed. What was agreed was something else. Addressing low student enrollment. I mentioned before, in 2016, we are 71% student enrollment. It dropped down to 54.9. And we found out the problem here is this. PTPTN loan. Orang tak bayar. The outstanding loan student is 40 billion ringgit. The graduates who get jobs, they're not paying their loans. That's why the government doesn't have money to give for new students to come in, because these are problems. 40 billion. So our recommendation is we need to pass a law in parliament, potong gaji. We know where you work, we know your salary by looking at EPF. Potong gaji. The more gaji you have, the more you potong. Because the reality is we don't do this, the government does not have enough money for giving scholarship for new students that come in. We cannot keep on throwing money into black box and keep throwing money and they don't pay. There's so many students out there who even CEOs of companies today, they don't pay their hutang. This is terrible. Huh? So we really have to do this to get the students, people who get jobs, to pay. If we start doing this, we will arrest, in my view, the declining enrollment rates, because we'll have enough scholarship to get around to increase the enrollment back to university. Graduate unemployment. A lot of the TVET people that go and do the vocational and technical schools, they are unemployed. Why? Because the quality is not there. There are some really good, one of the best TVET is actually the Penang Skill Development Center. I would think is the #1 in the whole country, the Penang Skill Development. Most of the students that come out from Penang Skill Development Center, their students, 90% of their gaji is more than graduates from universities. All of them have jobs before they even graduate. So what we suggest is that we rank all the schools, 1,500 TVET schools, based on the employability of the graduates, as well as the gaji, the average salary of the graduates. The higher the average salary, the higher the ranking, the more the government give them budget. So that institutions like TVET, Penang Skill Development, get more money. The institutions that they don't rate well, they don't get more money. So you allow you kill zombies. You don't have zombies. So this is the recommendation very strongly, that we allow for ranking for all the TVET schools so that this can happen. Global ranking. We really have to increase research funding. Prof. Habibah, I think, will like this one. We need to increase research funding allotment to increase citations. Because if you don't have citation, we got a problem. I can show you some data later. We need to encourage more endowment. There's so little endowment funds in our universities in this country, and plus the 50% rule. We need a tripartite agreement between government, universities, as well as the private sector to cause it to happen. Let me dwell on some data. The low ranking on citation and international faculty. The QS ranking, these are the few parameters that are there. #1 is academic reputation. So when you look at this, MU, the score is 79.6. It's very good. USM is 59.7. It's also not bad. I wouldn't say it's red, it's amber color. Employer reputation is also not bad. But where we have a problem is citation per faculty, which is 20% weightage. You see there, Universiti Malaya is 39.4%, USM is only 13.4%. We're lagging behind. And this is the problem. Also, another problem is international faculty. We don't have enough lecturers here from other countries. They are scored on ranking on the basis of the international faculty. But that's very small weightage, only 5%. But if you look at the QS ranking, a large weightage is given on to citation. I'm a pro-chancellor of Sunway University. Just I declare it up front. I'm very proud of this. Last year's QS ranking, this is Scopus. Scopus ranking for the whole of citation per paper, not total citation, clear, citation per paper. Actually, Sunway is number 3 in the world last year based on Scopus. Number 1 is MIT. And the score, the citation per paper is 1.07. And Sunway stands at number 4, in fact, higher than Stanford, higher than Harvard, higher than Oxford, 1.36 citation per paper. The problem is we don't have many papers. You see the number? Last year we only published 751 papers. MIT had 8,028 papers. Way down the list, I think MU had 3,000 papers and 5,000. MU, USM, something like 4,000 papers. I can't remember. I had the number somewhere. On business, the Scopus on your right-hand side, based on the ranking, actually Sunway for the School of Business Management in Economics and Finance, we were number 1 in the world. Citation per paper. This is Scopus published numbers. Our score was 3.28, higher than Cambridge, higher than Oxford. So, but the problem is we're a small university. We don't have enough money to do a lot of research work. So we only published 165 papers last year. But because the quality was there, the citation was tremendous. Our score was citation per paper was 3.28. We were higher than Cambridge and Harvard. I'm very proud of this. In fact, I showed this to the Cambridge, the Harvard professors. They said, wow. But because we're small, they look at the total citation. So I think the key here, and I want to mention this, not only do we require the volume, the money that's given, but you really have to choose the area where you intend to publish. And you must have the quality of citation. Otherwise, if you're not cited, you can publish a lot, but it wouldn't give you much. Tokyo, for example, Monash or Tokyo, 11,000 papers that they published, but they only have citation 0.55. Very little citation in Tokyo University. So one of the things we did to deal with unprofitability, my team and I have a consulting firm, so we did some work for tailors in Sunway University. We took a look at every subject, and then we asked the question, which program makes most money, which program makes the least money? So we know exactly in Sunway which program makes the most money, which program makes the least money. And so you know what to do with it. In the case of Sunway, there are 50 initiatives that are put out there to help the university, how each of the schools can improve the profitability, how they can grow the number of students enrollment in the schools as well, where we should focus. And I believe this is a way to go and do it. TELUS did the same thing. Altogether, 56 and 7 work was done. We uncovered a lot of programs that were operating below capacity, and so how to improve doing it. Let's look at the number 1 country in the world. The university, MIT. Last year they were number 1. Why are they number 1 on citation in the ranking? Massive grants from the government, as well as private sector. Let's just look at some numbers here. MIT, the amount of money that's granted last year to MIT was $783 million US. A lot of money. But the amount of money that they generate, their own revenue that they generate internally within MIT is $13.9 million US. That's what they generate last year alone. And then the state and the local and foreign government gave them 24.8 million. Federal government in the USA gave them, and non-federal 500 and plus 283. So they have a lot of money. That's why they're there. Without money, very difficult to do. Like no money, no talk. But the reality today is that I don't want to scare you in looking at these numbers, but I'm just saying that we have to be real. That money does count. But so if we have limited resources, you have to think about how to channel your limited resources where it really matters. I just checked last year how much the federal government gave you. I think you had something like 1.2 billion ringgit last year from federal government. Actually, a bit more than the state government. The Penang state government received only 0.7 million, 700,000. So you guys got more than them. That's why they complain about federal government. I think MU got less than you. MU got similar to Penang government. So you got a lot more money, maybe because you're a bit more neutral. But the key here is this. If you use your money wisely to focus on what really matters, I showed you before, what really matters anchoring here is the citation. You're weak on citation in international faculty. It will move the needle if you start allocating your money where it really matters. And that's my point. We don't have as much money in Sunway as you. We have a lot less money because the government does not give us any single cent. But we channel our money where it matters. That's why our score for citation has improved a lot. Although the total number of papers that we put out, that we are very selective about the papers that we get work on and who is writing in, because we wanted to make sure the quality is there, because citation is key. So if you want to improve your ranking, you have to think very hard about how to play this game. So when we finish our work, 3 months, and then we presented to the minister. He approved all the recommendation. Then we went to cabinet. It was approved at cabinet. So the cabinet is approved it, and then I stepped down after 3 months. That's what I mean. So today I'm looking from outside, seeing whether they're going to execute it. The success of implementation depends very much on the ministry running with it, on the universities running with it, really going out to go and do it. So I hope that you guys go and really push the envelope and do whatever you can to do it. The excuse is going to be removed now because all the hindrances, all the roadblocks, at least the government said they will do. They said they will do. Let's wait and see. But this is now, we have fortunate, you may say, because DATO SRI Anwar waited a long time to become Prime Minister, to reform the country. And let's hope that they use this opportunity to reform, make huge reforms so that we make tremendous progress. I want to show you this last chart. The last chart is, in my view, what, in my view, USM can do to move forward. I got 4 points here. If your VC was in the room, I would have made it very crystal clear that I would request that the Vice Chancellor and the leadership, all of you, conduct a strategic and leadership workshop one day to declare your game of impossible and your true north, so that you're very clear about the initiatives you need to do. Then I suggest you conduct a segmented profit and loss statement for every individual course, so that you know which course is making money, which course is losing money. Then you know what to do with it, how to move the needle forward. After you do that, after you run that can be done in 3 weeks. If you have people that's smart enough to go and do it, segmented P&L, 3 weeks, boleh buat. You get the finance people from your school of business, they can do this. Then you can run labs concurrently among all the schools during the semester break. So all the schools will run the labs for 6 weeks full time. If you don't finish it, you continue the following school break to get all the things sorted out. Once you finish doing this, then you have a roadmap to implement all the details. Implementation must be DMS. D means 10, do it relentlessly. M means monitor continuously. Every week you must have a dashboard so that you will see on the dashboard who has done it, who's not done it. And if you've not done it, it will be red color every Friday. Why Friday? So that you can spoil the weekends of those who don't do. That's the monitoring. And the S means every week you must solve problems. The leadership must sit together with everybody to find the problems. What is the problem? Why it is not done? How to solve problem? In my view, if you do this, you'll make tremendous progress moving forward. Thank you very much. Do we have time for Q&A?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dato SRI IDRIS JALA. So I think most of us know how and where we're going to spend our semester break soon. as we are still looking at the last slide here, all right? Okay, so okay, we have heard from DATO SRI IDRIS JALA, and now we would like to hear from you. So if you have any questions, any suggestions, any remarks, any comments, and I would like to take this opportunity to say a shout out to those watching our live stream on Facebook as well. Do send in your comments in our comment section. Those questions will unfortunately be moderated a bit, but they will be let through if they are actual valid questions. All right, so let's open the floor for questions. Again, decide and do to ask. Don't just sit there and decide, I want to ask, and you don't ask. Yes, of course, yes.
Dato?
Hold on. Here first.
Okay. Okay.
All right, okay.
Can I? Good morning, Dato. Okay, is it possible if we impose a KPI? Because you said that DMS, involve what we call this monitoring, solution. So is a KPI is a good thing to implement?
Absolutely. I believe if you don't measure and you don't inspect, people don't do. So I believe you must give targets and KPI, but don't just give any KPI. The KPI that really matters. That's why I said must have true north. Must be clear about the true north measure. The KPI must come from there. There must be a golden thread from the right true north so that you measure the right KPI. Then only you make people accountable. So I totally believe. So you have to do that. So if you run the labs, to use your word, you will impose the KPI. Because if the labs are run concurrently by, not from outside party, every school run the labs. The School of Social Sciences run the lab. The School of Housing, Building and Planning run their lab. The School of Humanities run their lab, course by course, based on the P&L. They come with a recommendation what to do, based on the game of impossible. They are the one who recommend it, and once it's agreed by the whole of the leadership team within USM, including the VC, then it becomes KPI that they will be judged on the basis, because it's not imposed by somebody. They come with it in the lab, and therefore the buy-in is already there right from beginning. So I don't think they will have a problem because it was not imposed by them. It was indigenously created within the organization. Thank you. You
Right.
had one, huh?
Pianina, yeah.
Thank you, Dato Sri, for your inspirational talk. There's a lot of take-home messages from your talk. And thank you for highlighting about Bachelor of Pharmacy. I'm the Dean of School of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Prof. Habibah was the former Dean of School of Pharmaceutical Sciences. We struggle with the fees, and we need the fees to put back as an investment in our infrastructure. And of course, we are governed by KPT, the fee rules, and so on. My question to you is, you have turned around many failing companies. What do you do, or how do you sustain that hunger among the employees once you have achieved the goal? I feel that, I think I've taught for over 20 years. I feel that sometimes our kids nowadays, they lack the hunger. You showed where you came from. You had a very a goal. You have to achieve your academic. You have to perform in your academic in order to better your life. But nowadays, kids, they are already quite comfortable. So where do we find? How do we inspire that hunger in them? How do you inspire hunger in the employees who have already achieved their goals? Yeah.
Thank you. A good question. From my experience, this is my own personal learning. One of the key things you have to do in leadership is that if someone is doing a great job in that organization, you must get that person to do a few things. One is to institutionalize the methodology so that it becomes part of the institution. Don't leave too soon. My regret is that I left Malaysia Airlines too soon. And we have not been able to institutionalize the new way of working. So you have to get the leaders to institutionalize the new way of working so there's no turning back. For example, I went there and I reduced manpower within my first 2 months. I sold our building for 130 million ringgit. Why? I needed to pay for voluntary severance. So in my first 2 months, I reduced manpower by 3,050 people. 1 year after, 1.5 years after I've left, the new management team hired back 4,000 people. So I mean, I think when you don't institutionalize it, the leadership move too soon, then you find people reverting back to the old way of working. That's one. The other thing that's needed is that you have to have succession planning. You cannot allow the same people to stay on the job for too long, they get tired already. So they cannot motivate people. So the leadership is the biggest leverage for motivating students or employees. So if the leadership is tired, then there's not enough inspiration required to push people. So I do believe it's important to create an element of flux, bring new breed in Shell. At the top level, we don't keep people beyond more than 6 years, 7 years in the job. We move them on. And people used to say, the best measure of leadership is when the leader makes himself or herself redundant. My boss in Shell used to say, the graveyard is full of indispensable people. When they were alive, they said the world will stop without us. When they die, they get buried, the whole world spins very well without them. Nobody is indispensable. So I think we've got to find a way how to do that. The third thing, very important for people, you must reward people who are performing well. If you don't reward them, what's in it for me? There must be a reward system that will make people say, yeah, this is wonderful. Not just monetarily, but reward them through promotion and career development. So that people say, yeah, I want to be there. It's very, very important to do that. If you create a reward system that make people want to be somewhere, there's somewhere for them, then it can work. So those are my key points to make sure the sustainability, the hunger is there. If you reward them and they can go somewhere, it will cause them to really want to do it. Any more questions?
Yeah, any more questions, please? Yes.
Assalamualaikum, Datuk Seri. In your experience, how do you deal with reluctant leaders? For example, after we set up everything, the KPIs, the strategies, but we still have reluctant leaders and also reluctant staff who cannot follow the instruction we made. Thank you.
Great question. That is why in my last slide, I started with step number 1, conduct a leadership and strategic workshop at the top. You don't start doing the initiative, because if you start doing the initiative, you don't get alignment at the top, you're not going to succeed. So at the top, they must want to do it. The workshop that's required at the top is key. When I went to government, I said to the Prime Minister, let's not begin anything until we get the entire cabinet to agree. So we had cabinet workshop, the entire cabinet to sit down to discuss our True North measures, to discuss the game of the impossible, to agree the initiatives. Everybody must sign, agreed. Only when they agree, then only we do. Because otherwise, you run the initiative as you described before, and then leader said, I actually don't think that's my priority. I have something else as a priority. But the point was, if you conducted the cabinet workshop upfront, they all signed, these are the priorities, then kita boleh jalan. Otherwise, it cannot be done. For example, when we decided public transport was a priority, we were absolutely clear we needed to build an MRT when I was a minister, because at that time we had 8 million people living in Greater Klang Valley. We expected by the year 2020 it will balloon Greater KL balloon to 10 million people. We simulated how many how bad the traffic jam would look like if we continued to just get the number of new cars into the city. So we had to build an MRT, line 1, line 2. Now line 2 is being built and next line 3. But it's going to take us a lot of money. The only way we can get that money is to do 2 things. Rationalize subsidy, introduce GST. I was a big proponent for us to introduce GST, because GST brings 30 billion ringgit to our coffer every year. So by abolishing the GST, we lost 30 billion. So that's a lot of money. So part of the reason why the government doesn't give you money because we removed GST. And then we had put in the subsidy rationalization during my time. That means there was no cap on RON 97. If prices went up there, it will change at the pump. But the new government removed the cap. So they have to spend, I think last year the government spent 73 billion ringgit on subsidies. We want the most still highest subsidized countries in the world. So money don't grow on trees. So part of the reason why many of them resist the initiatives, they don't have money. They will use money as an excuse. But I think the key here is that if you agree these are the priorities, in leadership they must prioritize budget matters. Rob Peter to pay Paul. Take money from the less priority areas and put them there. In life, there is never such thing as you have money for everything. You have money for things that are your priority. There's not money for everything. So you must, leadership is about making choices of what's important and what's not important. If the leadership cannot prioritize, cannot agree on true north, you cannot prioritize and allocate funds properly. Next question.
Any other questions, please? Right, I have a question actually. Right. I think one of the biggest problems with finding your true north, especially in a public institution, is that we are always blinded by the magnetic north. By the magnetic north. The problem with the magnetic north is that it's pulled by political will, it's pulled by other social aspects, and it's pulled by other obligations that would take us away and deviate our path from the truth north. So how do we navigate true versus magnetic north?
Yeah, very good question. Wonderful, Aman. That is why we ran the lab, to deal with the magnetic north.
Okay.
So the lab, the 874 issues were the magnetic issues, which you guys put there as the problem, why you cannot do it. For example, one of the complaints was, you got a foreign student coming here, he does his degree, finish his bachelor degree, now you have given him permission to come here and do his master's degree. Immigration law says he must leave the country, go back home and come back the next day. Ini tak boleh lah. Why? The guy is there, it's not a threat, he's not a criminal. You've seen him for 4 years. He graduated. Why you have a rule that says he must go back? Another magnetic north is we have rules that says if you want to repair your classroom, enlarge your classroom, you have to ask permission from Ministry of Higher Education. Why? There is already building permission given by the authorities on safety. Why do you need to still go and get permission from Ministry of Higher Education? No need all those rules. In the 57 recommendations, there all those things we removed, the magnetic north. Okay. Another example was the control of the fees that you guys want to charge. Why do you want to control that? If you overcharge in pharmacy, nobody comes. There's a clear control. So why do you do that? So our view is that if you liberalize this and allow you, give you more freedom to act, then you can do. I really believe there's a lot of opportunity to remove the magnetic north. The 874 issues were the noises that you guys came out with, and we want to remove them. And I hope the minister and the cabinet really run with this, because they approve it in cabinet. So I'm not saying it was approved. It was put as cabinet paper, they've approved it. They have to execute it now. If they execute, you have no excuse. You now must do your thing, because the magnetic north is gone already.
Okay.
Boleh?
All right, any other questions, please?
Any more? Going once? Ada lagi? Twice?
Okay, last call now, last call.
Okay.
Last call for questions.
Okay lah, habis dia. Thank you very much.
Okay, another round of applause to DATO SRI IDRIS JALA. Thank you, sir. All right, to show our mark of appreciation as well as a gesture of our heartfelt thanks for DATO SRI IDRIS JALA for gracing us with his presence and innovation. I'd like to kindly call upon Mr. Roslan Ismail, Director of our Pusat Transformasi Insan, to accompany the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, Professor Dr. Habibah Abdul Wahab, to present a souvenir of thanks from USM to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri IDRIS JALA. All right, thank you. Now to truly capture this special